Welcome to Alfresco Tech Talk Live. It is May 2015, and this is our recap of the Global Virtual Hack-a-thon. We've got a full panel, I think as many presentations as we can fit in the time allotted. So excited about that. I do want to start with a handful of quick announcements. First of all, this is going to be the last Tech Talk Live I host, or I might step in to help, but our illustrious Oli Hajelskov is our developer evangelist is going to be taking over. So he's on the panel with us today. So
Hi.
would you like to explain your new role, Oli?
Yeah, so I joined about a month ago, and I'm really excited to be here. My role is a developer evangelist, and I'll be taking care of the developer experience and making sure that everyone can onboard Alfresco very easily, and that stuff like the SDK and produce great content, and basically give the whole getting to know Alfresco, getting up to speed and development, all these things should be very good. On top of that, I'll travel around to meetups and be present, and yeah, just to be here. There was a lot of talk last year about what Alfresco should do, about all these kinds of things in terms of community, people, and yeah, all these things. And so yeah, I've joined, and I'm based off Denmark, so it's pretty easy for me to travel around Europe and attend meetups. So if you're having a meetup, be sure to let me know, and I'm happy to be there.
Excellent. We're very excited to have Oli on the team. Also, our next event is Community Office Hours. We're going to do that on May 15th, so about 10 days from today. We are hosting the Alfresco UX team. So they handle research, user interaction, and design. So it's fairly new for us to have a formal UX team. I expect that you'll benefit a lot by learning about how that team works, and they do want to discuss how you can participate. They're always looking for people to join their research studies and give us feedback on how the interface works and how it should work. They try to take individual anecdotes and turn them into test those hypotheses to be able to say, oh, this person's problem applies generally, or this person's problem doesn't, and so we can act on that. So it'll be really interesting to see how they do their work. So that's May 15th. Please submit questions. I got a whole bunch from Peter Lofgren that I appreciated, but we can use some more. The big announcement is the next Alfresco Summit is going to be in New Orleans on November 17th through 19th. So expect registration to be set up soon. Expect the call for papers to come out soon. Please start thinking about your topics for the calls for papers. Now, I should explain briefly, we've decided to do one global summit. We selected New Orleans because that was where we could get the dates and the hotel that we were interested that seemed to work for our needs. But we plan to rotate where that summit is. We're not meaning to exclude anybody, but it's just so much work to do too. And getting our engineering team to participate in two instead of one takes them away from the product for a very long time. So that's why we're going to experiment and try a single global summit this year. And hopefully that means we can get more community members from around the world to participate, get our Europeans and our US people to collaborate more, and get more Alfresco engineers to attend. So we hope it's a good thing for everybody. I know it's an adjustment and it's really hard for some people to travel. Boris specifically finds it hard to cross the ocean, so unless he's going home to Chile, I guess.
Of course, yes.
So, but yeah, we apologize for making the change, but at the same time, we hope that it helps us do a better event. So, when we announced that we were doing a single global summit, our friends at Order of the Bee said, oh, that's a shame. It's going to be in the US. We need to have a European conference. Let's do it. So they are putting together a European developer conference. So that'll be great. If you are interested in volunteering or participating in that, go to orderofthebee.org, all one word, and sign up on the mailing list, and you can read about the plans and participate. You will also see that the Order of the Bee are doing their annual elections to the board. So if you want to participate in selecting who's going to govern that order for the next year, please sign up on that mailing list. You need to be a voting member. That's pretty easy to do. You just have to contribute in some way. So sign up on the mailing list, join a committee, Contributions are pretty, there's lots of work to do. It wouldn't take too much time. I bet in one weekend, a half a day on Saturday, you'd be a voting member and be able to participate. So encourage you to do that, orderofthebee.org. And as Boris pointed out, everybody on the panel today is a member of Order of the Bee. It's great. So excellent. Those are the announcements for today. So let's get into the topic. Alfresco, we try to do 2 developer hackathons a year. One is associated with our global summit in the fall, and in the spring we do our virtual online global hackathon. So anybody can participate. We host in the RC channel. We go for a full day, meaning start of business hours in New Zealand to the end of business hours in LA, and we hang out and collaborate. People work on their own projects, but often work together, and if you get stuck, there are other people to turn to. So it's a great opportunity. We organize it in the wiki. So if you go to wiki.alfresco.com/wiki/hackathon, there's details on how to participate in the online hackathon. So we had that hackathon about a month ago. No, 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago. And there were lots of great projects, more than we could put into this recap. We invited some of the ones that we thought were really interesting to give demos, so that's the panelists today. If you did not get invited, it doesn't mean that your project wasn't interesting. It probably means I didn't have your email address. So yeah, feel free to reach out so I can get to know you better. So I apologize to a bunch of people that I didn't have their email address. Tried to research it, but yeah. So anyway, with that summary, our first project, so it started with in Australia, and we had a great participation from an Alfresco partner named Seed Information Management in Melbourne. They had 3 people participate, one of whom is Boris's former coworker who moved to Australia recently. So it's 2 in the morning in Australia, so they instead of them joining for the demo, they sent in a video. So it's a 6-minute video of their demo of their project. You can catch it on YouTube. We're going to show it here so we can discuss it. So I think Oli has that queued up.
I'll paste a link on the RC channel and in the chat, and we'll of course link it in the events just for people to listen. It's a bit hard with these Hangouts to actually display a video, but yeah. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna take my my headset to the microphone, and hopefully the sound will be passable. So bear with me. So let's try and see if this could work. Okay. All right, and here we go.
Hello everybody, my name is Brian O'Neill. I'm from Seed Information Management. I'm going to take you through the hackathon we did, or the work we did for the hackathon a couple of weeks ago. It involved myself, Brian O'Neill, Kavi Tanakor, and Toon Commons as well. We're working on this.
Oh, I just saw that we don't have the video apparently.
Hey, the audio is working great. Oh, there.
So it doesn't work in full screen, but the audio was good. So I guess this could work. Yeah, I think this will work. Okay, so I'll try again. Nope. This is not good.
We had fun doing it, so hopefully you like what you see.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so what we did was we used the Google API to translate documents. We got as far as translating them from French into English, and I obviously extended upon to translate to many different languages. Okay, so if I upload a document to get started, select one, there's a document to select that, hit OK. Nicely upload the document to Alfresco. Come into that document, we'll see the document has some text in it, which is in French, salut tout le monde, etc. We added an API, sorry, an action down here. You can see that called Google Translate. When I click on that, what it does is it creates a translation of the document using Google API and stores it as an association, which is then accessible. So if I go to the association, click on that, bingo, we've got our translated document. So it's hi everybody, Seed Information Management MIT is specialized in ECM, is based in Melbourne, Australia. And we had good fun at the hackathon. So there you go, so it's been translated, so that sort of displays what the whole thing does. To make this work, what we did is, I'll show you the code. We did it using a Ubuntu VM. So the action, this is the configuration for the action, it calls out to a repo bean called Google Translate API, using the onSimple action, repo action, and call. If you have a look at that bean, so we've configured a bean here. It's a bit bigger. We configured a bean which has got the same name, same ID as what was used in the action configuration. Note there's a couple of properties here, Google Refer and Google Key. So when you set up a Google project, it gives you a Google Refer ID for that project. And when we set up the project, you say which of the APIs you want to use. And we chose, obviously, the translation API. And then it also gives you a Google Key to use to connect to that, that Google project. We made sure that we stored those keys in Alfresco Global Properties. So this is where they're stored. And so when the bean is registered, it picks them from Alfresco Global Properties. To have a look at the actual bean itself then, we have a look at the bean, go to the very top. It's implementing or extending action executor abstract base. It's an action. We've implemented the execute implement method. As you can see, what it actually does is, the first thing it does is it adds an aspect to the source node that we're translating. And the aspect has been created in a content model. And we've created an aspect called translation. And we just have an association, child association, it'll be between the source node we're translating to the target node that we've translated. So we'll go back to here. So we add that aspect. We then create a new node for the target node, and then we call transform document. So if I go to that. Transform document, what it does is it gets the content from the existing source document. It then calls a transformation on it. So we're saying that the target transformation is going to be, we want to get text plain. So we've used the Alfresco transformation to text to get the words that were actually in the document. So for Word documents, for instance, we can just get the actual words that are in there. And we send those off to the Google API. So we call it transformation, and then we write, the transformer writes into the target bean, which is, we've got the writer for here. And if we go back up, the next thing we do is we call translate document from the returned translate node, which has got the transformation word list in it. So we get down to that. This is where we actually call the Google API. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. We just get a reader for the node we're going to translate and get the content itself. And then we call out using a REST framework. We call out to the REST call for Google API, supported by REST. We're passing in the key and the also the content as well, and that's to be translated. And then when that after that call happens, very, very fast actually, and we get a response in JSON, which we translate then and get the content out of it, and we then write that into the target node. So that's it really. That's how it works. I hope this is informative to somebody. It was good fun doing the hackathon. We enjoyed it. We probably will put this up on as source code, and so people can access it again. If anybody has any requests, they can contact me, brianO'Neill@cdim.com.au. And great, thank you for watching, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
So I was grateful that Brian was willing to put that video together, because I found that to be one of the most useful projects of the hackathon. Pretty slick to be able to machine translate documents in the repo.
Yeah, it's a quite cool project. I have to agree on that.
They did mention that it's, I think they said that Google charges for that API, but it's like $20 for 1 million words. So figured out, you could translate thousands of documents for a fairly reasonable price using that integration. Excellent. So everybody on the panel, I muted during the video. So if you guys have anything to say, you need to unmute yourself. But that's so that was the first one, really interesting. So that's Brian O'Neill, is Seed Information Management, and his team. So feel free to reach out if you have questions. Next is we have Boris from CIRB. Boris, would you mind explaining your project?
Yeah, but before I start, I want to mention that we had the hacker room here at CIRB. We had 11 participants. Most of them this year were internal people, developers that are constantly working with Alfresco as backend in their projects. And we have also Christina, who came from, well, she's a freelancer. She was one of the external people. And Philippe Dubois, which is an Alfresco engineer who gently came to help us, giving his expert advices. And so it was very good to have them here. And also around 10 o'clock in the morning, we were able to see the live demo of the project from Australia, the translation. And for us, it's also very interesting because Brussels has 2 official languages, and since we work with the government, every document needs to be in those 2 languages, French and Dutch. So if there is no official version yet, this could be really useful to have at least a Google translated version in the language. So the project that I work together with Christina, and then one of the guys from the other team joined us as well, Thomas Brier. So we were with 3, and it is called the Outside Agent. Outside because it's a synonym of Alfresco, and also because it's running in my laptop, talking to different Alfresco instances. So from the outside, it's helping to manage different instances. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to share my screen.
And what I found really interesting about this project is that Alfresco has a multi-tenant capability, but it has a lot of limitations. It doesn't support all the functionalities of the repository. So my understanding, Boris, is that you can use the outside agent to manage a group of repositories as if it was a single one. So you get the benefits of multi-tenant without the complexity. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Well, not that exactly. I mean, it all started when we use enterprise edition, so we needed to update the license file for all of the instances that we have, and we needed to have something that did a sort of orchestration. So we needed to update the file to all of them. So so that's why I'm putting my face back. That's why we started with this project, and then we realized that we could use it also to deploy scripts, like to check the sanity of the logs and those kind of stuff. So we started doing those kind of things. But it was everything really attached to my environment of working, and by doing this in the hackathon, I could put it in a GitHub repository, so it could be reused by somebody else for their environment. So I'm going to show you, and then you will understand better what I mean by managing different instances from this application. So I go back to my screen. So you see my screen there? Is the text readable or need to be a larger font?
Looks good.
Okay. So it is based on Makefile. So I will just do make. You see there's a help message that comes immediately. It does a good thing. Every time that I write a script for myself, I have help messages, because when I use it 3 weeks from now, I wouldn't remember how to use it. So one good thing from make is that I have all these targets here, and I can choose from them, and make have tab completion. I have my make help of make host. I have a list of hosts here. Can you see them? Those. So there are test instances that we have here, several machines. So if I show again the help message, you see I can do a make ping. So I ping them all. So it starts giving you latency, and you can see that one of them failed. So Andalusia seems to be down, but the others are reacting very well. So I can try to SSH to them as well. This is using private key, and okay, so you can see that all of them succeeded except from Andalusia. So Andalusia seems to be a failed instance. Can you read that?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good. So this is because I put that one explicitly. I have a file with instances. If I'm going to show you a sample, it contains, it's just a CSV file, the alias, which I use for identify the instances, the IP address, where is the Tomcat home located, a username, a password, and the URL. So what I like to do is to use a symbolic link. So my list of instances, which is a file, it points to one of the files that I'm using. The one that's wrong is because it has this Andalusia stuff out there. And I'm going just to replace it with the test file. So now if I make ping works, so Andalusia is not there anymore. Make SSH, all of them worked. I'm going to time now what I'm doing. It says that it took almost a second to make the SSH test. But with make, you can run things in parallel. So I would run two in parallel. So it goes already faster. So I can do 0.4 seconds. So you can imagine if you have a farm of Alfresco instances, this helps you a lot. And with just -j, it will just do as much as it can in parallel. So this one goes even faster, 200 milliseconds for testing them. To Alfresco, not just to any virtual machine that you could host, is logging in. So I can test login. It's going to give me a ticket. So it logs very fast. You see, it just uses the Alfresco REST API for logging in, and then I can reuse this ticket to do other tests. For instance, so make version. I get that they have different versions on this. So I have used 4.15, 4.0.0, 4.2.4, 4.2.3. So it helps to check the status of the machines. Makefile also allows you to do a dry run, which is -n. So here you can see that each rule which is being run by make here is calling this get version script, which you could reuse and then just call it individually. So it's a version of which is a Fresco environment, and I just call that one. So I don't need to call all of them when I want to get the information. So if you go to the repository, you do a GitHub, a Git clone, you will see a couple of them like check license, get IP. Oh, those are from the CSV filtering. And yep. So another thing which I think is cool, I can do make. It's going to run service Alfresco status. I can see here, I identify now that my service script is also done by some of the consultant. It's not the same output. Actually, this machine doesn't even have a service state. But cool thing is I can stop them all at once. So I can do, let me clean it up here. Make -g stop. I'm shutting down all of them in parallel. The script to stop Alfresco takes some time because Tomcat needs to stop, but I just sent this to all the servers right now, so it's stopping everything. And it's going to take a while, so probably I can finish my demo now. But the idea is that after I run this, I can run make login. It's going to fail in all the instances. Okay, so you can see some of them are already stopping. If I do here, I'm connecting to several machines in parallel, and I'm sending the message sudo service Alfresco stop. And you can start adding things little by little to your set of scripts. Okay, so it's finished. I can do make login, and it fails terribly, except for this one, because it didn't have the service script. I can do make MyNG start again, and I relaunch all the instances. So it helped me a lot on my daily work, actually, to check the status of the machines. So
that's a very
it.
cool script.
Thanks.
And how's that implemented on the client side? So on your controller, it's you're using make and bash. Is there anything special for each of those repos so that it can communicate?
I have the public key on the authorized keys. That's all I need, because all the rest is just HTTP calls to Alfresco. So it's just using the API.
Very cool. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Boris. Now, it's CIRB, and we really appreciate them hosting the Hacker Room 2 years in a row, and they've been great supporters of Alfresco events. The rest of the team was largely working on a tool to merge repositories. How did that go?
Well, it was a little bit of an ambitious project for a hackathon, but it helped them a lot to understand the internals of Alfresco. So having Philippe over there, helping them to see what were the real complex things to do to merge two repositories was very useful for them. So they're really willing to participate again in a different in another event, and we are also thinking of maybe organizing an internal hackathon just to learn one thing from Alfresco. Like, let's develop add-ons and learn the ICAO or the ICAO framework. Just doing a hackathon just to concentrate on learning and stuff. So it was very useful for them. Although they didn't have any concrete result, it helped them a lot to learn about the internals of Alfresco.
I think that's one of that's a really valuable outcome of these events. You know, the projects we're demoing now are probably the exception to actually produce something demoable at the end of the day. It's the goal, but I think the majority of the participants, the main goal is to learn something new, to be able to collaborate and ask questions. So that's really cool. I'm glad they enjoyed it. Excellent. So Angel, you were working on a very interesting project again. Do you mind explaining your project and giving us a brief demo?
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen because I have a PowerPoint. I need a PowerPoint because my English is something limited. Okay, let's go. If I can, okay. Full screen, okay, we're seeing this.
Folder quotas. Yep.
Yeah, I brought some time ago an add-on just in order to control user quotas in a different way from Alfresco, and I received some requests just to extend this add-on and to make this control over a folder. So my working plan was, as I was saying, Alfresco by default has a quota by user, but this quota counts on every location, on my files, on their files, on every site. The first release allows to set a quota by user, but only counting content on user home folder. And for this hackathon, I was developing a generic quota by folder, with the main objective to control the shared files or some site, and to give that tool to administrators. So I was developing using the last version of the Alfresco SDK and using the last Alfresco community version. In this point, Ole helps me with the setup, but it's easy to use these versions. And I was developing the third web interface it's a classic simple action for administrators in order to set the quotas, and reviewing the repo behaviors, experts, and policies just in order to control all this content length. So this is a demo, and it's a video too. So I'm going to speak. This is the SARET files folder. So we see the action, the folder quotas action. We can set a quota in megas in this case, so 10 megas. Now the folder has an indicator. We have full quota on this in this folder, and we can see the usage and the quota. We have no bytes. We're using no bytes, and we have 10 megas. So if we start to use share files, we can include some books, and we can see how the quota is reloaded. We are half quota, more or less, and the indicator is that too. We are seeing how the quota is filled. We can include more documents on this space, on this folder, and we can see again how the quota is reloaded on this folder. We are empty almost, and if we exceed this quota, we are including a large file. We can see how the error tell us that we have no more quota. This is one thing I'm going to comment then, because this message is not user-friendly, so I need to improve this.
That battery icon is awesome.
Yeah, we like the battery icon, but the exception in the upload dialog is a common problem, that if something goes wrong in a transaction, you just get a transaction error, and there's no way to customize it, unfortunately. Yeah,
but this is this is one of the points. It's easy to show a message, a customized message, but I don't want to overwrite Alfresco resources, so it's more difficult doing this in this way. So yeah. I need to put focus on this raw Java exception message. I need to get some user-friendly quota limits interface by selecting units, megabytes, gigabytes, or something like this. And my thing is interesting to allow a Fresco administrator to have a quota report, because if you are using reports on several folders, you need to see all of them in one screen. So for the next hackathon, maybe this, or maybe another interesting add-on will be run. And lesson learned. The first, Alfresco SDK is it's working, and it works pretty fine. I have, as I said, I have some problem with this, but because I was not using it in a good in a good form, but it works very well. Alfresco 5.0D supports also classic customization method. This is a classic simple action, and it's very well supported by this version. And almost anything goes. So what was working now is working. So if you have some problem, it's not for this version. It's your problem. And Axel cleared me this during the hackathon that the problem was me, not Alfresco. So this is my participation in the hackathon, and that's what I get from this.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Angel. Very, very cool project and another very useful one. So we're really glad you took the time to put that together.
Thanks.
So Sujay, you were updating an old add-on. How did your project go?
Yep, I took up the project which was converting Jeff Potts Alfresco 5-star rating tutorial to Alfresco Community Edition 5.0 using the Maven SDK, Alfresco SDK 2.0. I had made success on the repo side, but on the share side, I couldn't make up much progress. I'm still struggling with the iCow stuff. I'm still learning it, and that's the only part left on the tutorial. So if there's someone on the community who is willing to help me out in that part, most welcome. I would just walk you through what I've done right now. Let me share my screen. Do you see my screen?
We do. Can you make the font bigger?
Come on. I did. Do anyone know the shortcut for that?
It's good enough. It's.
You could try Command Plus and see if that works. If not, we'll get by.
That's not working on Eclipse.
It's okay.
So, okay, bear with me for that. Sorry.
That's right.
So the project right now, it's two part. One is the repo side and one is the share. The one change which I made on the repo side is that I made this test class support the Spring and auto wiring. Rest all stuff on the repo side remains the same what Jeff wrote earlier. So let me walk you through this test case. So it has 5 test cases over here, and the first one is like it's creating a node and then applying the rating to it. The second, it has the same functionality. It creates a node and then it applies a rating from different users. What you're seeing over here.
And what did you have to change between the 4x add-on and the 5x add-on?
On the, I didn't work on the, like you was asking about the 3.4.
Oh, 3.4, that's what I meant.
Yeah, just I added this auto wiring and Spring dependencies over here. That's the only change on the repo side what I made. Mm-hmm. Rest everything remains the same. So let me just execute the test cases over here.
And what do you think are were the benefits of moving the add-on to use the new SDK?
The one benefit I see is the development was very easy with the SDK 2.0. It was quick to set up. It took around half an hour for me to set up, and like the repo side was done in 1 hour. Then I struggled on the share part doing the iCow stuffs. So if you see, I just executed the test cases, and if you see the second test cases where it goes and calculates the average rating. Let me show you on the screen over here. So what it has done is that first it created a node, and for user 1 it rated the node as 1, for user 2 with the value 2, and user 3 taking a value of rating as 3. So the average rating 3 plus 2, 5, and 1, 6. So the total number of rating is 3, total rating count is 6, and the average rating is 2. So if I would show the same on the share side, let me log in as the admin over here. Oh, sorry. Let me start up my repo.
Yeah, what I find most interesting about your project is it's a really good example of how to update an old, bring stuff into the 5.0 world with the new SDK, and even with iCal. It's really useful to see what was easy and also where your challenges were. So appreciate you sharing all that.
Yep. Sorry for the startup. So it's started. No.
Almost done.
Yep. So I go into site here. So I'm just uploading a document over here, and if you come and see into the document details, if you see there is in the properties section you have the default properties available, and what I am doing right now is that I am adding the aspect rateable to it so that the content can be rated. And if you see, it added 2 new properties over here, average rating and the number of ratings. So as I don't have the UR ready with me, what I'm going to do is that I have a curl commands where I will call the web script for that. So over here, what I've done is that I just made a rating to this document using the user admin with a rating of 2. So if I go and refresh the screen over here, so you can see the average rating is 2 and the number of rating is 1. And what I'm doing right now is, let me change the user. And the rating as 3. And if I do a refresh again, so the rating has now changed to 2.5 and the now count of rating is 2. So
Excellent.
that's how it all went. So the work what I am left with is that I need to update this dashlet site content where I need to add a widget which would show the rating besides the comment over here.
And is the code's on your GitHub repo?
Yeah, it's there on the GitHub repo. I will share the URL.
So pull requests are appreciated, I'm sure.
Yes, sure.
Excellent. Cool.
Thanks,
Yeah,
CJ, for sharing. That's wonderful. As you were sharing, I realized we have presenters from every continent. Douglas in South America joined as well. So we had participants from all over. So glad you were able to join us from Indonesia.
Thank you. It's Malaysia.
Oh, sorry, Malaysia. Oh, My mistake. I knew that. Anyway, sorry about it. Okay, so Bindu, from Colorado, my neighbor state, you had a pretty good group at the Z offices.
Yeah, we had 4 folks. We had Mike Mueller, VJ Prince, Nathan McNeil, and myself. And I'll just go on and describe what we did. So we basically, I don't know if folks have seen Tech Talk Live 69, but we presented kind of our proprietary extensions to the old SDK that added a lot of things like rapid application development and continuous integration framework and stuff like that. A bunch of that, I hope, was inspiring for the 2.0 SDK. And we feel like we want to get, thank you. I feel like we want to, rather than be running on something that's proprietary, I now have approval internally to just have us be supporting the 2.0 SDK and making it better based on the sorts of ideas and techniques that we have used internally. And because the 2.0 SDK does a lot of the things in different ways, but it does a lot of the things that we did in what we call our Quick Start project framework. What we decided to do was, rather than kind of rewrapping the archetypes, to actually build a generator or a set of generators that make it really quick and easy to spin up a project and then to develop. So there's a project called Yoeman. It's built using Node.js, so this would require folks to also have Node.js installed on their development environments. It does work on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And let me kind of give you a quick intro to how this works. I would say that it's very much a work in progress. It's you can build a project with it, but the extra, create a web script, create an action or behavior, those things are definitely not ready for prime time. Let me share my screen. That's the wrong screen. That's the right screen. Okay. Is the font big enough, or do I need to make it bigger?
I think it looks pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. That's probably better.
Yep.
Yep.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a folder for a new project, and I'm going to just Alfresco. Now, in order to do this, you have to have Node.js installed, and then once you have Node.js installed, that gives you the Node package manager. So you would then do npm install Yoeman globally, for example. That would install Yoeman. And then once we have the Alfresco generator, you would then do generator Alfresco -g, and that would install the generator. So once you have that, you can Alfresco. Okay? And basically what this will do is apparently take a really long time. There we go. So basically what this will do is take you through kind of a wizard interface for building a project. Right now we support the 2.0 SDK, and then if you actually have a local install of master, local would actually allow you to use the local installed version of the SDK, which potentially is newer. In this case, the SDK team, I think, is pretty close, probably in the next week or so, to releasing 2.1, or at least a beta of 2.1. So that's what
we're aiming for release either later this week or early next week. No promises though, but that's
awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to just select 2.0, and I'll say, it's defaulting to basically the default values that the Maven archetypes do, but I'm going to do com.zia consulting. And then I'll call this project deduplication, and we'll go with the default version. And I can now say community or enterprise. I'm going to say enterprise because that's going to actually give me a little bit more in my project, and it'll automatically, I'll kind of show how that works. And I'm going to generate a git ignore So this actually uses the Maven archetype. It uses the headless Maven archetype. We'll go off and, assuming this has never been this slow before, of course. It's, oh, wow. You kind of have to go faster. I'm sorry. Give me, just quickly show this. Okay. Okay, so my project has been set up. And you'll see that there's the standard stuff from the all-in-one archetype here. This project is really focused on all-in-one, but the idea is that you can create additional amps, source amps, and you can also bring in third-party amps and actually check them into the amps in the amp share folder, and we'll be able to plug those into the runner through archetype generators. So I can Alfresco amp, right? And that will basically say, hey, okay, you want to build an amp, and will now walk me through. It's remembering that I set my group ID. I'll just leave it at that. We'll just call this dedupe. Leave the version, and that has now, if we cd to source amp sources, I now have a dedupe folder, and in the dedupe folder, I basically have a new dedupe repo amp and share amp, and those are then plugged into the runner, and they're plugged into the context files and everything for RAD. So that's that. We also have Alfresco web script, and this will again, this stuff is, a lot of this is smoke and mirrors right now, but I can say I want to create a web script. We'll call it we'll call it dedupe, and dedupe files, and we can dedupe files, and we'll call it Zia dedupe, and it will be a get web script, and we will return JSON, and it's user authenticated, and again, boom, and that's gone off and basically generated the appropriate files for a web script, and we can generate a lot of web scripts. Obviously, we need to query for which amp to put this in. There's definitely additional work here. There's a lot that I'm not showing you. We also have one other, just quickly, git branch, git checkout action. We also have Alfresco action, and then this will basically do the, it's the beginning work on basically saying, oh, I want to add an action, right? So it's dedupe, package is com.zia consulting dedupe, name of my class is dedupe action executor, and yes, it's abstract, boom, and now I get a dedupe context and a dedupe action, and again, these need to be placed into the right locations, but you can see that it's basically based on your responses, it's automatically generating code. So I will leave it at that. There's a lot more to do, but it's a pretty quick way to set up projects and then continue. We'll have the ability to create behaviors, and we'll do a lot more work on the AMP archetype to be able to not only make source AMPs, but actually bring in things through Maven dependencies or by just including the AMP files in the project.
It's a really, really cool project, Bindu. I have to say that's. I'd love to see some of the internals of how you've done this. Will this be available to the public on GitHub, or what's your plan with this?
Let me post the link to the IRC channel. It's already up on GitHub.
Excellent. Very cool. Very cool.
So it's in Bindu Generator -Alfresco on GitHub.
Right.
Just one thing, I read on Twitter that actually SIA Consulting was the only America's partner participating on the hackathon. So kudos for that, man. And actually, I need to leave now. I have to catch my train, but I'm going to check the video to see what Axel and Martin has to show. So thank you very much, guys, and see you later. Bye.
Thank you, Boris. And yeah, Bindu, it's like your demo's like a preview of the SDK 3.0. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
I think that's sort of the plan.
So your diabolic plan is to go on TikTok Live, present something, and just wait a few years, and then the SDK automatically has it.
excellent. So we are getting short on time. I think we're going to go 10 minutes over, but that's okay. So Axel's project was more of a research endeavor rather than something demoable, but I thought it was fascinating because it's a project we've talked about internally for years and never sat down to do. So Axel, would you mind describing what you did and what you learned?
Yeah, sure. So my project was about stripping down the Alfresco repository to a bare minimum that is necessary to run the Alfresco repository as a CMIS server only. So strip everything in the way that is used for share functionality or additional functionality via file servers, just a CMIS core. And this was interesting in part due to the fact that the Alfresco system has grown over time. There was a clear architecture vision of a modular system in the beginning. And over the course of the years that Alfresco has been in the market and has had some service packs enhancements applied to it, that vision has become a bit blurred, and some modules are now interconnected or intertwined in a way that you can't really remove them without breaking the entire system. As a starting point, you might think that there's a minimal context file in Alfresco out of the box, as far as I know. And you might think you can use it as a starting point, but actually the comments in that file say, okay, basically not much will work in this situation. And so I had to start with a full Alfresco system and try to remove the parts that I don't find necessary for CMS, and find out how to fix all of the issues that popped up after I removed this. So for example, you might think that the CMIS service does not need the rendition service for exposing documents, but it actually kind of needs it due to some interconnected beam in the permission service layer. So for example, permission services required rendition service to be available. And so we will kind of go piece by piece, remove something, and then try to fix up everything that comes up. It's like whack-a-mole, playing whack-a-mole with the Alfresco beam definitions and with the issues that pop up. At the moment, I have it in a state that actually all the startup beam conflicts have been resolved. So there's no Spring error in the beginning in the startup anymore, but now I'm facing the issue of the schema bootstrap of Alfresco database, because one thing I removed is the activity workflow and the JVBM workflow engines. But unfortunately, all of the schema bootstraps are still contained and kind of have dependencies on the activity classes, which I wanted to remove. So I have to figure out how to adapt the schema bootstrap so that it actually initializes a repository and enables the server to function.
So how much did the size change as you ripped everything out?
At the moment, I actually don't have much large change at all, because I'm still using most of the jars. I have not had the courage to rip out any more of the jars. I'm starting on the Spring level and then try to remove those. I think the removal so far is about 5 to 10%, not much more. The main issue here is that the core of the Alfresco repository itself, there's an Alfresco repository jar, already makes up about 30 or 40 megabytes of the 150 megabytes that the entire web application uses. And it's impossible to remove parts of that Alfresco repository jar without rebuilding the entire Alfresco core. And then you also have all of the dependencies that the Alfresco repository kind of draws in. And before you can strip down the repository jar, you can't remove most of the dependencies. So I don't expect much of an improvement in terms of application archive size, only in terms of startup performance potentially, and some runtime performance is likely to improve slightly.
It makes sense. And I noticed on Twitter you said that you got it, you got it building and it runs?
It runs so far that there's no Spring error at the startup anymore, but as I said before, I'm now having to deal with the schema bootstrap and figure out a way to remove those SQL schema bootstrap files that I don't require for CMIS only server. But actually, I want to do it in a way that allows people to upgrade to a full functioning Alfresco repository later on. Start with a minimal Alfresco repository and upgrade it. So I have to find ways to enable that, because if I only remove the bootstrap, then Alfresco on a start with a full Alfresco won't notice that there's a difference and have a partial database initialized and won't work then. So there's some kind of figuring out how to make this compatible with a full Alfresco in the future.
Oh, excellent vision. You have to remember, Axel's the guy that upgraded the first one to try Java 8, first one to switch out Rhino for Nashor, and your willingness to dig in and muck with the internals, I think we all benefit from what you learned. So thanks for your time.
And it's always fun to dig into the guts and glory of Alfresco and see how the vision was intended to be, and figure out how you can move along the project in that direction without interfering with any existing functionality of the customer side. That's one of the most interesting but also challenging aspects.
Fascinating. Excellent. So moving on really quick, Martin pointed out that he got his demo working after the actual hackathon. So I didn't realize that he had something to show. So we brought him in last minute to he volunteered to join us. He has recorded his demo and wanted to describe a bit about his project. So Martin, would you mind explaining that?
Yeah, no worries. So the idea was we wanted to do something cool and easy. I was pretty blown away by the fact that everybody loved the Minecraft demo that Roy did, that having no use was nonetheless really cool. So we tried to look at something like that. I was working with Darren from Digital Catalyst. So now in the background, he's managed to get a live version running. Okay. Now I'm not sure how this screen share works, but let's see if that goes. Okay. So can you see that?
Can now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, now hopefully in the background, Darren's noticed that I've put it there, and he'll start sending some data into his system. In the meantime, I'll just have a quick look at the code. So what we've done is obviously we've implemented the node service policies: delete, create, and update. And I've got something that I've called it a storage service. It's actually very simple in that it's just a concurrent hash map. So while the thing is live, it's incrementing these numbers every time something happens in the system. I'm not sure whether we're going to get this, so let me see if I can get the demo. So here we see the demo starting off, and you can see me deleting some files that are already there, and now we've got some uploading starting. And you're getting quite an interesting view of what's going on, even though it's maybe not. I feel, well, it's useful, obviously, in a sense, I think, but it was definitely designed to be more fun. You see that where it froze there, where I switched out the browser. When it came back to the browser, it had to process all the remaining events that it had, as it will happen again now. It's doing things in the background. So this, as you can see, I've been uploading with WebDAV, but also Darren had created a different program for doing a much more random or randomized, I suppose, view. But this looks quite good. You can see that there's 3 delays, and if you look, create and update, they tend to go the same height if all that's happening is at the same time.
I like the when you're doing a long import or some of these long-running operations, it can get really hard to tell when is it really working. So it's nice to have a visual.
Yeah, quite. I just thought I'd run it again, just so I can point something out. What was I going to do? So basically, you can see how they kind of all go together. If you look at or create and update, I had to separate them. It actually works pretty well. They got about 300 milliseconds in between each one. But you get create and update at the same time. So when you create, you update. automatically. So when you first start this thing off, it starts doing them at the same time. So the delay worked quite well. As far as the code goes, it's really simple. I mean, basically, there's this is the essence of it. So we just expose those counts that are in the compliant hash maps. They come out each time, and then this JavaScript, which is based on Paper.js, we modified it. It's one of their demos where balls are bouncing all over the place. So we modified it just to have these creates and updates. And you can see how I've staggered it there. And you know, it's simple and fun, but it's actually really I hesitate to say useful, but it's interesting, I think, and you know, it's an interesting way of pulling data out that you don't normally see from Alfresco.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Martin, for joining last minute to share that. So we need to wrap up, but I wanted to ask Oli what we had 10 other projects or something in our list of that we knew about. What were some of the ones you thought most stood out that we weren't able to invite today?
Oh, well, there's a lot of them, actually. I'm just looking at the list. The one I wanted to highlight the most is Jeff Potts, who updated his tutorials to work with the new SDK 2.0 and 5.0D. So those are all fresh. They're live on his website. And I think we can all say that Jeff's tutorials are just great when you're starting out with Alfresco. So that's a really, really needed and cool project.
So that's
Richard,
ecmarchitect.com, the Alfresco developer series.
Yeah, I think he updated most of them. Maybe he didn't update the workflow one, but it seems that almost all of them are updated. Richard, you did some work as well. You migrated a bunch of old projects from Google Code to GitHub.
Yeah, just it was boring, but I slogged through.
It needed to be done. Google Code is shutting down this summer, or can't remember when.
Yeah, you can't create new stuff there, and so it's all in read only, and I don't remember when they turn it off, but it's somewhere near the end of the year.
Yeah. We had a guy working on the Python CMIS lib. We had the LoveTalks team, Bygas and Peter from Sweden. They were working on the Kanban plugin and trying to get that to work, but they hit some issues because that plugin is based on OSGI, and mixing OSGI with Alfresco can be done, but it presents itself with a lot of issues. So they managed to get some work on it, but mostly they were hitting bugs trying to get OSGI to run with Alfresco. Peter and Tahir and Jeremy was working on the bulk import tool. They created new UI and features. I don't have more details. It just says new UI and features. So yeah, some additions to the bulk import tool. Then we had a few guys from Alfresco engineers who was working on a project called Mindex, which is an app where you can do low-code sorts of integration projects. So you can say, I want a widget, I want to pull in stuff from various services, and they did a CMIS widget that could display folders within Mindex via CMIS. Quite cool project as well. And last but not least, we have Douglas CRP, who was working on trying to create a new landing page or customize the starting page for a user. So when you log in to share, it will redirect you to whatever page you specified it to land on. But he hit some hard roadblocks, and basically it was a big learning experience, but it seems that it wasn't that easy. It sounds like an easy task, but it is not at all.
I think he uncovered some of the last JSP pages left in Share.
Yeah, and that's actually the whole starting point of Share when you log in is JSP based. So it's some tough odds just to fix that one. It's a shame, but that's how it is. Hopefully we can if we can make up a use case, we could take it back to engineering and see if Dave Draper or Kevin Rose would bite on it. I don't know, but at least it's worth a try.
And you didn't mention what you worked on, Oli.
Oh yeah, I worked on the SDK samples again this year. I did it last year as well, and we had, I can't remember his real name, Yurik from the IC channel.
Jonas?
Yeah, Jonas. He was working on doing a workflow example, and he just pinged me yesterday and said that he's still working on it, and that he hopes to finish it by the end of the month and having a blog post ready with it. For myself, I updated all the SDK samples that we have on GitHub, so that's github.com/alfresco/SDK samples, where we have a lot of different examples on how to do a custom action, an iCal widget, a web script, a model, the basic things in self-contained projects. So if you need some sample code to look at, that's a great place to start, just to have a look. And I updated them to use the latest version of the SDK and the latest version of Alfresco as well. So that was quite good. Just a side note on the SDK samples, we are planning a new 2.10 release of the SDK within the next week or so. That's going to be quite good. We have quite some nice stuff, but I'll make an official announcement when we get it out.
Excellent. So thank you for the rundown. I appreciate everybody's participation, both in the hackathon and in today's recap. Very cool projects. I always learn a lot. We did go over time, so I'm just going to end it there. I hope to see everybody at office hours a week from Friday, and we'll see you online. Take care.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.